At the wedding reception, my parents-in-law were visibly drunk, oblivious to the hushed whispers around them. Unconcerned, they continued to berate me, insisting that if I wanted to join the family, I had to prove my financial capability. "Well, since you're already married, you better show us you have enough money. Give us $1,000, a new bonus, and a hefty sum," they demanded, shocking me to the core. I never expected such words at a wedding reception. The blood drained from my face as I stared at them. My father intervened, snatching the microphone away. "Enough is enough. Don't you realize you're making a complete fool of yourselves?" he scolded. "My name is Zoe, a 23-year-old office worker, currently in a relationship with Dylan, who's 27. We met through a friend, and after a year he proposed. Soon we would be married. Losing my mother at a young age left a profound impact, and my father, a hard worker, raised me single-handedly. I had a comfortable upbringing, shielded from many worries, yet the pain of losing my beloved mother led me to guard my emotions, fearing a repeat of such heartache. This guarded approach extended to my romantic life, and I had minimal dating experience since my school days. I even entertained the thought of remaining single for life. However, Dylan entered my life, challenging my reservations. I didn't harbor any romantic feelings for Dylan initially, despite his persistent attempts to ask me out. However, he genuinely cared about me and displayed gentlemanly qualities. Over time, I started opening up my heart, and we began dating. His continuous care brought happiness, making him irreplaceable in my life. I realized I wanted to spend my life with him, and when he proposed, we decided to get married. Dylan understood me completely, always kind and supportive, assuring me that I could count on him. His words, "I love you, Zoe, you can count on me," moved me deeply. The promise to make me happy for the rest of my life filled me with joy. Just being with him warmed my heart, inspiring me to reciprocate his care. When I informed my father about our decision to marry, he cried tears of happiness. "Wow, Zoe, you're finally getting married. I'm so happy for you," he exclaimed dramatically. It was a revelation to hear such sentiments from him, as he had always worried about me not finding a partner. Grateful for his support, I thanked him, realizing how much every father worries about his daughter. Preparations for the wedding began, and despite our busy work schedules, Dylan and I dedicated our weekends to wedding planning. My dad, having raised me single-handedly, expressed his congratulations, anticipating that he might cry even more at the actual wedding. With these heartfelt moments, Dylan and I embarked on the journey of preparing for our big day. There was no time to rest. Our schedules were filled every day with various commitments. On our supposed day off, we planned to visit Dylan's parents' house so I could meet them for the first time. Dylan had met my father right after proposing. Originally, I wanted to introduce myself to Dylan's parents right away, but their busy schedules delayed our visit. When we finally arrived at his parents' house, I felt a sudden nervousness. Dylan reassured me, saying, "Don't worry, my parents are very kind people." His mother warmly welcomed us, and as we exchanged pleasantries, I greeted her politely. However, her demeanor changed when she realized I was Dylan's fiancé. "I see, so you're Zoe," she said in a lower tone, and her smile disappeared. Her scrutinizing gaze made me feel marginalized. Leading us to the living room, her attitude toward me remained cool. Suddenly, she questioned, "Zoe, I wonder how much you're worth." Stunned, I hesitated, feeling more like I was being interrogated than welcomed. Her words felt like a judgment, making me at a loss for a response. The tone from my prospective mother-in-law caught me off guard. I hadn't expected such a chilly reception. She continued, "Dylan is our treasure, our only child. If you're going to marry him, you need to be a suitable wife for Dylan. Are you worthy of it?" The unexpected question left me speechless. It felt more like an interrogation than a welcoming introduction. Unsure of how to respond, I realized that joining a family required more preparation than I had anticipated. Marrying someone who possesses an inheritance doesn't seem like a commitment I should be questioned about, especially since I won't be living with them. I don't need to feel pressured by inquiries like these. As I contemplated this, Dylan's mother, seemingly unfazed by my delayed response, took on an intimidating demeanor. "Why don't you answer promptly when I ask you a question? You're so ill-behaved," she scolded. The pressure continued as she demanded if I was ready for this commitment. Despite the intense interrogation, I managed to express my hope that Dylan and I would support each other in our marriage. Unconvinced, his mother dismissed my words as spoiled, asserting that my role was solely to support Dylan as his wife. Dylan's father intervened, attempting to calm the situation, apologizing for his wife's outburst. Despite his mother's protectiveness, he suggested that she might be nervous, speaking her truth. However, my relief was short-lived as his father expressed concerns about my single-parent upbringing. He claimed that being raised by a single parent had a negative public image, expressing hesitations about having someone from such a background as the wife of their only son. Stunned, I tried to comprehend the unexpected criticism. I couldn't let this slide. There's nothing wrong with being raised by a single parent. My father worked tirelessly to raise me, and I'm proud of him. Being raised by a single parent doesn't diminish my value. However, Dylan's parents seemed to think differently. They suggested that I might lack skills in being a good wife and doing housework due to the absence of one parent. I countered, emphasizing my efforts in housework and cooking to ease the burden on my father. Dylan unfortunately ignored my words and eventually stated that to marry him, I must promise to devote everything to God, meaning I should comply with his parents' every request. Stunned, I hesitated, struggling to comprehend the extent of these expectations. Before I could express more, Dylan's parents continued monopolizing the conversation, leaving little room for me to argue. Frustrated, I decided to confide in Dylan about my feelings. "Dylan, do your parents always talk to people like that?" I asked, surprised by his nonchalant response. "What about it?" he replied, seemingly unfazed by what his parents had said to me. "I mean, what your parents said and how they repeated it this afternoon. It just feels like it was a bit too much." I expressed my concerns. "Really?" Dylan responded, seemingly unaware of the impact of his parents' words. "Why is that my parents didn't say anything wrong? Besides, they've given us permission to get married, so don't worry about it." That's true, but I trailed off, uneasy about Dylan seeming to be on his parents' side rather than mine. Sensing my uneasiness, he hugged me. "Zoe, you don't have to worry so much. My parents are just a little too upset because their only son is getting married," Dylan reassured me. But his words left me feeling like he didn't entirely approve of me. "It's all going to be fine. Don't think so much. I'm sure they just want what's best for us. They want us to be as good a couple as they are. That's why their words are a bit harsh," he continued. "Oh, really?" I responded skeptically. Even if his parents had high expectations, I didn't believe it justified belittling me for being raised by my father. I don't think people who say that are a good couple. We are the ones getting married, and we're supposed to be the stars of the show. It's not like they disapprove of our marriage, Dylan tried to reassure me. Accepting his perspective, I decided not to dwell too much on his parents. The day of the wedding arrived, and we were surrounded by well-wishers, including friends, colleagues, and bosses. Walking down the aisle with my father, I exchanged vows and rings with Dylan, and the applause filled the air. For the first time, I realized the profound happiness of marrying Dylan. I was engrossed in conversation as we entered the reception hall. Videographers captured moments of the bride and groom, providing delightful entertainment. Reconnecting with old friends and receiving congratulations added to the joy. While I initially worried about his parents, they seemed genuinely pleased with our decision to marry. After the ceremony, we proceeded to register our marriage, becoming husband and wife. Each moment was cherished, and happiness filled the air. As the evening progressed, the bride and groom, along with our parents, lined up to greet guests. However, unease crept in when I noticed his parents were unsteady on their feet, their faces betraying the effects of excessive drinking. Despite their condition, we had to proceed with the ceremony. As the microphone was handed to us, Dylan's mother, fueled by alcohol, launched into a provocative tirade, addressing me like a professional wrestler. "Zoe, listen up. You're going to be our daughter-in-law after this wedding. As I told you before, get ready to devote yourself completely. Prepare because we're going to make you work hard." The guests exchanged whispers, with some thinking it was a joke, and laughter echoed in the room. Dylan's father took the microphone next. "Zoe, don't you feel embarrassed wearing a dress like that? It doesn't suit you at all, dear. Zoe, listen up. You're going to be our daughter-in-law after this wedding. As I told you before, get ready to devote yourself completely. Prepare because we're going to make you work hard." The guests exchanged whispers, with some thinking it was a joke, and laughter echoed in the room. Dylan's father took the microphone next. "Zoe, don't you feel embarrassed wearing a dress like that? It doesn't suit you at all, dear. I hesitated to disclose the truth to her. As expected, people began exchanging concerned glances. I implored Dylan to intervene and halt his father's outburst, but he refused, asserting that his parents were not in the wrong. It became evident that she wouldn't shield me from his parents in the future. The hall buzzed with conversation, and despite the commotion, my in-laws, inebriated, continued their verbal assault. Unfazed, they insisted that, although I was already married, I needed to prove my financial capability to join their family. Stunned by their demands, I never anticipated such remarks at a wedding reception. The blood drained from my face as I stared at them. My father stepped in, wresting the microphone from his parents. "Enough of this! Don't you realize you're making a fool of yourselves?" Despite my father's respectful intervention, his parents remained defiant. "Why are you trying to interrupt us while we're talking? Your father is no good. That's why you turned out like this," his mother retorted. My father calmly responded, "You people are even worse than I imagined. You refuse to meet with me just because I am a single father. I never thought someone like that would be working for President Anderson. Rather than Anderson being a wonderful character, a third of his employees must be good people." During the president's speech, my father-in-law's expression abruptly turned severe. He questioned how I knew the president, revealing him as our company's business partner, and more importantly, an old friend of mine. My face paled as he accused me of making fun of the president, particularly for being raised by a single mother. I scrambled to apologize and pleaded with him not to convey this to the president. My father-in-law, who had moments ago acted like a king, now found himself kneeling in embarrassment. Laughter erupted from the guests, some even capturing the scene on video. Realizing the irreparable damage, I accepted my father's suggestion to leave. Taking the microphone from Dylan, I announced the cancellation of the marriage, vowing to return the money guests had contributed. As we left, I caught a glimpse of Dylan and his parents in disarray. Soon after, his relatives approached, expressing sympathy and praising our decision to stand up against such behavior. The incident spread, and Dylan's company gained notoriety for harboring deluded parents with an inferiority complex. Dylan's pride reached such heights that he could no longer bear it, leading to his voluntary resignation. Predictably, the president of my father-in-law's company got wind of the incident, and Dylan was promptly shuffled to a less significant division and transferred to a countryside office. News of the wedding fiasco left his family in disarray, with relatives distancing themselves due to their own missteps. Meanwhile, my father approached me asking if I had any interest in running the business. "Do you mean?" I inquired. "Why don't you consider aiming to become the president of my company?" he suggested. Determined to focus on my career rather than romance, I embraced the challenge, aspiring to follow in my father's footsteps. Currently employed at my father's company, I'm diligently learning the ropes. While my in-laws made a spectacle of themselves at the wedding reception, the silver lining is that the breakup occurred before formalizing the marriage. With newfound freedom, I can pursue my goal of becoming a successful president without unnecessary concerns.